What? Dad?
A lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. How much you think it is? Yeah. Probably like 150. Who's pulling them back? Who's pulling them back?
Good evening. This is simply a reminder, if you have a cell phone on you and you haven't turned it off yet, to please do so. Thank you. Hello, I'm Steve Rowe, Executive Director at Oak Knoll. Welcome to the January 2023 Remembrance Program. For many years, our tradition has been to recognize those who are no longer with us through a special program of art, music, poetry, and silent contemplation. Each of the residents who have died have either already had services or will have services at a future time according to their own religious faith. The purpose of this program is to remember them as a colleague, a neighbor, and a friend.
Ghosts of Grief by Bill Lyons. Ghosts of grief visit now and then, usually at a time of their choosing. Dickens might have called them ghosts of grief in the past, present, and future. People die and the rest of us go on living. Frost said it when the boy sawed off his hand. Royko pointed it when Icarus flew too near the sun, melted the wax on his wings, drowned while others went about their business. Ghosts of grief past remind us of losses, relatives, friends, pets, hearing, lovers, those lost through war, crime, and disease. Ghosts of grief present challenge us to thrive even as we fade into relics of the past. Rage, rage against the dying of the light, but even Dylan Thomas returned to dust. Perhaps we are most intrigued by ghosts of grief future and the possibilities they hold. We know them only as apparitions, butterflies, and hummingbirds flying.
A Walk Near Water by Bill Lyons. When the evening comes, and it will come, to walk near water one last time, I'd like to take that walk with you, hand in hand, along a shore of lake or river we've canoed. We need not be there in the flesh, hats, shoes, long pants, sleeves, as long as in our hearts we know the oneness that so strengthens us each time we touch and say hello. We've paddled together all these years on quiet waves, white caps. A walk near water might well be, if lake or river we've canoed, our version of eternity.
The committee requested that I read the name of the deceased members of the Oak Knoll community, and I looked at the list and I was amazed at how many people that I knew. They were acquaintances, they were friends. Some I only waved at in the hall. Many I visited with extensively, and I was quite impressed, quite impressed. Isn't this a wonderful experience to say these people were people that we knew, and now we are left to carry on their legacy? What a good idea. Thank you. And now, an honor for me to do this, by the way. Thank you. All right. in memory of Delbert Dill Disselhorst. Charles Bob Kremenek. Don Munson. Imogene Meg Judish. Judith Judy Gust. John Wheeler. Patricia Pat Johnson. Adrian Jan Showmaker. James Jim Norris. James Keith Guillory. Gene Hood. Herman Bodecker. Nicholas Rossi. Helen Goldston. Judith Judy Allen. Claudine Harris. Jean Jansen. Willard Sandy Boyd. John Edie. Agnes Dory. Gerald Jerry Solomons. Myra Jane Harding. An extract from the poem Drifting by Olivia Ward Bush Banks. And now the sun in tinted splendor sank. The west was all aglow with crimson light. The bay seemed like a sheet of burnished gold. Its waters glistened with such radiant light. At anchor lay the yachts with snow-white sails outlined against the glowing rose-hued sky. No ripple stirred the water's calm repose, save when a tiny craft sped lightly by. Our boat was drifting slowly, gently round to rest, secure till evening shadows fell. No sound disturbed the stillness of the air, save the soft chiming of the vesper bell. Yes, drifting, drifting, and I thought that life, when nearing death, is like the sunset sky, and death is but the slow, sure drifting into rest far more securely by and by.
If I Should Go by Joyce Grenfell. If I should go before the rest of you, break not a flower, nor inscribe a stone, nor when I'm gone speak in a Sunday voice, but be the usual selves that I have known. Weep if you must, parting is hell, but life goes on, so sing as well.
concludes our Remembrance program, and we'll take a brief intermission before the beginning of the Association of Oakville Residents semi-annual meeting.
Well, good evening, everyone. For you who don't know me, I'm Bill Dickinson. I'm Chair of the Resident Council, and I want to welcome you to the January 18, 2023 semi-annual meeting. Before we begin the formal part of tonight's meeting, I want to recognize all the participants who made this Remembrance service so really touching and lovely. The committee members who, for the past number of years, have done such an outstanding job are Jane Down, Kate Caston, and Sue Wakefield. Our readers are Bill Eckert, Lauren Horton, Ann Howard Jones, Kathleen Renquist, and many thanks to Kim Herring for the brochure, Sue Wakefield for the PowerPoints, and our musicians, Delbert Disselhorst, may his dear rest in soul, or soul rest in peace, organ, Joe Benda for soprano, and this is kind of awkward for Bill Dickinson. So the first order of business tonight is to approve the minutes of the August 10, 2022 semi-annual meeting as distributed on the Oakville app. May I have a motion that the motion or minutes be approved? Pardon? A second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. The next order of business is to elect and re-elect 5 council members for the 2022-3 calendar year. Many thanks to our nominating committee who contacted each of the members to determine their willingness to continue serving on the council. The nominating committee included H.D. Hoover, Chair, Fran Grunhoff, Jan Christ, Pat Leonard, Mary Page, and Ann Tanner. To be elected for the first year of the first term are Carol Fuller and Jane Murphy. Both Carol and Jane were appointed by Scott McLeod, who's vice chair, and me in 2022 to fill vacancies. To be re-elected to serve their first year of the second term are Doris Hauser, Scott McLeod, and Nancy Sprintz. May I have a motion that all these members be elected or re-elected? There's a motion. Second? Any discussion? Yes? Oh, you second? All right, good. 2 seconds, that's good. All in favor, aye. Aye. Motion carried. At this point, I'd like to say congratulations to you all. I would say welcome aboard, but you've all been aboard, so I don't have to say that. With that, I'd like to introduce the 2023 Resident Council, and just raise your hand if you're here. You don't have to stand. Charlie Anderson, Joyce Cameron Baldus, Marcia Emmons, Carol Fuller, Doris Hauser, Mary McEnroy, Scott McLeod, who is our vice chair, Jane Murphy, Joan Nubling, Nancy Sprintz, William Stanford, Weatherall Winder, and yours truly. Sadly, our immediate chair, Jackie Harb, will be going off the council in 2023, but she has assured me that she'll monitor our monthly meetings and continue to keep me on my toes, which I really Jackie has been an enormous help to me, really. It's incredible. In the year that I was vice chair and the year that I'm chair. And I really do thank you, Jackie, for all your help. I'd also like to thank Ethel Blesh for her many years of dedication as resident council recorder. Ethel decided to retire mid-year after kind of a nasty accident, and been doing this for a good many years, and kind of decided, man, this is the time to stop. So I really welcome Jeanette Carter, who is our recorder this evening, and Jeanette has been helping us out during the year, and I really appreciate it, Jeanette. You do a great job. We've had other ones also on the, Linda Mustin has done a couple of really, really fine jobs, and I appreciate it all too. So now I'll turn it over to our Executive Director, Steve Rowe.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So I have the pleasure of introducing new residents to the Oakdale community since our last semi-annual meeting in August. We've had 11 new resident households join us since then, and I will ask each of them, if they are here in attendance when I call your name, to please stand and be recognized if you're able to do so. So joining on the Oakdale community at One University Place, we have 3 households. The first is Brian and Jenny Clemens. All right, we're off to a great start. The second is Ben and Carolyn Van Zanti. And finally, Joyce Patchell. Yay! Then at the main campus in the George building, we've had couple of households, Larry and Beverly Blades. Okay, and then David Lohman. All right, welcome. And in the Benton building, Kathy Rawlings. Ron Schnack. And Tova Vitiello. And finally, we've had several not in residence households join us in the last several months, and I'm not sure if any of them are here, but Chuck and A.K. Traw, John and Sally Staley, and finally Steve and Victoria West. All right. Well, thank you for those of you who are here in attendance, and welcome to the Oakdale community. We are going to slide now into the program portion of this meeting, and I am the program. It says an annual update of our current strategic plan. So we shared with you about a year ago the strategic plan that had been approved at the December 2021 board meeting, and that was going to cover the 3 years of 2022 through 2024. At the time that we shared that with you, we indicated that by far the biggest single priority for us would be to work on the expansion of assisted living, the expansion of nursing care, and ideally find a way to replace the 1966 building that houses assisted living. So what I'm going to share with you is a partially baked idea. This is our best thinking to date, and this is a result of months of work really with our management team and our architectural team. We hired OPN architects out of Cedar Rapids, and we've been working with an architect named Jack Top, and he's done a phenomenal job of listening to our managers and incorporating the ideas that we've shared with him into the plans. And we've kind of gone back and forth and updated some things. But I'm going to share with you our current best thinking for how we are going to approach this really redevelopment of the main campus. I'll also talk a little bit about Oakdale East toward the end. And I want to let you know, I believe that what I'm going to talk about is going to take our entire time. So this is just the first in a series of conversations about these plans. We will get your input and your feedback, and but we just want to at least start the conversation by sharing our best thinking to date. There are a couple of paths of obstacles that we will need to overcome. One of those paths is city zoning requirements and density requirements and building height restrictions and things like that. We're close and kind of kept those things in mind for what we want to do, but we will be in a position where we either need to ask for variances or do a rezoning, or potentially, if we can't accomplish those things, tweak our plans to get them into compliance. But the first stage is kind of thinking about what we want and trying to make that happen. So that's one path that we need to work through with city staff and potentially ultimately city council. The second path is financing. What I'm going to share with you is a really complicated, expensive project. And we need to figure out how are we going to pay for that project. And there are still moving parts in terms of, it's like, okay, we just very recently, January 4th, got the cost estimates for this project. That was only 2 weeks ago. From those cost estimates, I have been working to try to build a financial model that projects revenue streams from the incremental apartments that we will be gaining, and figures out kind of the expense structure as we have a different community, and try to make sure that this actually works for us financially, and ultimately try to figure out how big of an equity contribution does Oak Knoll need to be prepared to make these plans a reality. So I just want to set those expectations. We have some money set aside that we will be able to invest in it, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the total costs are going to be. So I just want you to know that going into this as we start to talk about the plans. The other thing, and I apologize to a handful of residents in this room who I absolutely fully intended to have private conversations with prior to this meeting, because their current homes at some point may be disrupted by these plans. And we've been here before. We'll probably be here again, and what I want those residents to hear first and foremost is an apology. I meant to get there, and I just wasn't able to accomplish that. But secondly, these plans still have a lot of work to do to figure out how we're going to do it. So even if we're showing that your apartment at some point is going to go away, we have a lot of time to figure that out. And I promise you, we will have a home for you, and we will make it a better home for you than what you have currently. So with that, I'm going to start to share this idea. So this picture is actually kind of the end state that we are hoping to get to, and there's at least one building on here that doesn't exist currently, and there are replacement buildings. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm sorry, maybe I should just leave the microphone alone and stand at the podium. That's what I will do. So, can you still hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, good. So, the new building that currently doesn't exist is this one, which I'll talk about in a second. This building is a replacement of the current Oakcrest building that houses assisted living, and this building is a replacement of the current Central building. So this is a really complicated project. To get your bearings, this is the Spring building, and we are sitting right here currently, okay? The Skywalk, the George building, the Benton building, and then currently the Central building goes this way. There is a parking structure here, and then the Oakcrest building with assisted living there. That's the project team. The objectives that we were trying to accomplish, and I realize the text on here is probably impossible to read, but I'll share with you the kind of the objectives that we set out for the architectural team is we want to replace our current 39 assisted living apartments with a modern building and increase the capacity of assisted living from 39 to about 65, okay? We want to expand the size of our licensed nursing home beds, the health center, by 20 to 25 additional beds. And we want to replace the 1966 Oakcrest building and the 1968 Central building with new independent living spaces. So that's kind of what we set about with the architectural firm as we began conversations. The very first phase of this project is demolition of parking. So this currently is a 2-level parking structure with surface parking up top, which you access from George Street, covered parking down below, and it's also a pathway into in-building parking that lives under the George building. So in order to start the project, we need to take this parking down. We also, and this is where I apologize to Marcia and Millie if you're here, and to Carolyn if you're here, we also need to take down a couple of houses here, and the reason for that will become evident with the next phase. So initially, demolition. The second piece, and actually I should point out, some of you might be wondering what's going on up here. This is a property directly across Benton Street from us. The address is 1201 West Benton. A couple of months ago, I got a call out of the blue from the son of the woman who had lived there. She died kind of unexpectedly, and so the three children were trying to figure out what are we going to do with this property. Their grandfather actually was Wendell Thomas, who lived at Oak Knoll a long time ago, so there is a relationship with this family. And if we were able to acquire this property, it allows us to think about some things and potentially use that space to enhance what we do here. We submitted a purchase offer for that property about a month ago and didn't get any response. And I was like, what's going on? You called us to offer, to see if we'd be interested. We made an offer, which was a reasonable offer, and didn't get a response. And what we learned about a week after sending that is there are 3 children of this woman. 2 of them are co-executors of the estate, and one of those co-executors was out of the country in Brazil and is there until February 1st. So the daughter that I was talking with said, you know, I'm just gonna put this on hold until my brother gets back into the country. This is too hard to do long distance when he's away. So this might be an opportunity for us, and that's why it's showing up. We started to talk about that with the architects. So after we take these structures down, the first real phase of new construction is a new building here, and this building would contain 3 different pieces of our service. The darker color here on level 1 of the building, this is street level, is an expansion of the health center. So immediately with this first project, we're able to add some new health center spaces, and we would add 14 licensed nursing home beds on this floor, and we would create kind of a little courtyard area between the rooms that exist on the health center here on the west hall, and they would have a courtyard across to rooms on the other side in the new building. Then the next 3 stories of this building are assisted living. It would be 42 assisted living apartments. So we would replace the 39 assisted living apartments that we have currently in Oakcrest with brand new construction, and like have nice new space for our assisted living residents to live in, and gain 3 additional apartments with this first phase of the project. And then the top floor would be 10 independent living apartments and 2 guest rooms. So we'd add independent living space on the top floor of this building. That will become important because the next phase of the project is going to ask these court building independent living residents to relocate to this part of the building, because after that happens, the hallway that these residents live in currently will become more health center space. So this is immediately contiguous with the loft just around the corner, so that's the same level as the loft, our memory care area, and it would add additional nursing spaces here and office spaces for us to work out of here, okay? You know that we have a lot of people who have offices in the central building, The assisted living offices are in Kim's office even, are in the Oakcrest building. And when we get to the point that we're going to take this building down, those people need to have some place to work. So that would happen in this corridor, really where John and Andrea Rauer's apartment, I don't know if you're here, sorry. So there's a handful of people, and the biggest one that I'm sorry for, and I know Joyce is here because I saw her coming over this way, Joyce Carmen Baldus, to make way for the loft, we asked her to relocate from a third floor Oakcrest apartment over to the court building. Just know that this is at least 2.5 years away from happening because we need to do a lot of work and then build a new building for anybody to move to. So that's the next phase of the project, really the expansion of the health center. Then we go back to demolition after we have moved the people who currently live in the Oakcrest building over to their new assisted living apartments in this building. We take this building down and replace it with essentially a 4-story building. So one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with this project is the oldest parts of our building, the 1966 structure and the 1968 structure, are both only 2-level buildings, 2-story buildings, and they happen to be relatively low in the topography of our campus. So the Oakcrest building is at the bottom of the hill, and we could certainly have a more dense building and better utilize the land that we have by replacing a 2-story building with a 4-story building. So the lowest level of this building, basically at grade or ground level, would be parking under the building and then 3 stories of independent living apartments. And I forget exactly how many apartments this is, but I think it's about 60. And these 60 apartments would become the new homes for the people who currently live in the central building. So after this building gets done, people would move from here to here, and then the next phase is demolition again, and taking down that central building. And the final phase, replacing that central building again with additional independent living apartments, parking underneath again, and kind of completing the campus. This building would connect to the Benton building and the George building, just like Central does right now. It would also connect to the new structure here, and it would connect to the court building that currently exists. Within this, give me 1 second. Yes. So within this building, it is on level 3, which is where the assisted living in this new building is on levels 2, 3, and 4. The expansion of assisted living would be on that same level. So really, most of our health care happens all kind of immediately in the same general area. And one of the things that we really like about this plan is it takes our assisted living residents from the far corner of the property, and especially for an event like this, there isn't an easy way for many of our residents to get to a program. We're very reliant on volunteers to help move people to get to programs, where if we put this building together, it's much more centrally located and much easier for residents to go across the skywalk, and into community space like this. So lots and lots of phases here. It's roughly, those are all the phases, roughly 7 years worth of work with demolition, construction, to accomplish everything. But we're really excited about the plans and think that this will be a great addition and serve us well for the next 20, 30, 40 years into the future. Yes? Thank you. Kim is, yeah, thank you. Kim is my timer. She just told me we have 8 minutes to go. So, the costs on this, and I realize you can't really read this, but that's good. It costs $100. So if we could do it right now, just everything in today's dollars, it's about $125 million worth of construction. The reality is, it happens over years, so every year that goes by, we've kind of assumed about a 5% increase for each year that goes by. So the project that we do, 4 years from now is going to be 20% more expensive than it would be if we could start on that today. And the reality is we can't start today because people are living in these buildings and we need to have some place for them to go before you can build new. So the overall estimated costs, like kind of factoring in all of those things and putting in some decent contingencies for us for the unknowns, this is about $170 million all in. So that's a lot of money. We need the biggest project that I have been involved with. When we did the George building, that was a $25 million project. I remember walking out of the closing of that financing with Pat, and we're standing on a street in downtown Des Moines just looking at each other like they trust us with $25 million. A few years later, we went back and we closed on a $50 million financing to build this building. That was in 2012. I don't know what it will be like to go ask for $170 million of construction financing, but we'll get that experience somehow. So yeah, it's a big project. So that's enough on the main campus. On the east campus, which is actually a little bit easier to think about, there's fewer obstacles to overcome. So this is our east campus, building 1, building 2, and building 3. This is a topographical map, so where it gets more purple or darker shaded, that means that we're getting into some pretty steep ravines, okay? We've been exploring ideas for how do we add 16 apartments of assisted living at the East Campus on land that we already own, because we've explored trying to buy land from ACT, who has sold land to the school district, so we explored buying some of the property that the school district acquired, and neither party really is interested in selling us the land that we actually need to move forward and make our footprint a little bit bigger there. So we asked the architects to look at our site and see what you could do to add assisted living at the East Campus, and they came up with 2 options. This is the one that I like better. It is adding a small, or an assisted living building. It's actually a 3-story building on the west side of building 3 and taking advantage of the topography. So at street level, it is just a 1-story structure, but we actually build down the hill. And so from the back, it looks like we'd have a level of assisted living apartments and another level of apartments, and then some support areas and the connecting tunnel down at the lowest level. I like this idea for a couple of reasons, but the primary one is it really doesn't impact people's views the way that the other option would. So it gives us a building on land that we already own, allows the people who are at East now as independent living residents to continue to stay on that campus but receive additional support and services. And thinking about this relative to all of the work that has to happen for the main campus, this is a much easier project to kind of digest, and assuming that we can pass the city hurdles for zoning and density and things like that, we can start on this fairly quickly. This is about a $16 million project to build this building. And like that doesn't feel as overwhelming as $170 million. So that's the first option that we were looking at, and the second option would be to add a fourth building to the campus, and this is actually where the dog park is currently located. So that's one of the reasons that I don't prefer that option, is because we would have to relocate the dog park probably to this area. But the other thing is it would significantly impact the views that these people currently have and that these people currently have, because they're just looking out onto basically open space, and ultimately the ACT parking lot is not too far away. So it's a building rather than a parking lot, but in the distance there's lots of wooded views and open views that would be compromised by putting that building there. So that's kind of a look at what that building would look like and feel like, looking kind of up from the south end of the courtyard to the north where that building would be. That project, I think this says, I can't even read it. I think it's about $16 million for option one, that first one that we talked about, and about $14 million for option two. In my opinion, that extra $2 million to do option one is worth it for a lot of different reasons. So thank you, 2-minute warning. So I shared with you that this really wouldn't be kind of an opportunity for question and answer. I know you're going to have a ton of questions. There will be lots of opportunity for us to talk about these things. And we'll kind of like what we're doing for the resident financial meetings, where we've got a series of 5 meetings going. We'll do a similar thing with this idea, so that you have a chance to look a little more deeply at the plans. There's a whole bunch of information that I cut out of this presentation, like actually showing the floor plans kind of floor by floor. That was just too much for this initial meeting. But that will be coming in the next few weeks. So be looking for that. We'll have lots of opportunity for conversation and input, and hopefully kind of generating excitement about what the future will hold for us. So thank you all very much.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. These are certainly exciting and challenging